Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and in the spirit of the trees and all of living nature, I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising, which will be the second of 5 sessions that we'll be having this week on regenerative health. It's very synchronistic, as it turns out, that we're contemplating these matters. Many of you have no doubt heard that last night, the U.S. Supreme Court apparently has taken the decision to abrogate a woman's right to abortion in the United States. There was a leaked draft majority opinion crafted apparently by Chief Justice Alito, basically abrogating the federal jurisdiction over abortion in the United States and remanding it to the states. And the states that have been calling for it are essentially saying that after 6 weeks, a woman cannot have an abortion for any reason, including rape and incest. And there are apparently 22 states all set, controlled by Republicans, to eliminate a woman's right over her own body at this time. And the United States will join, I think, about 20 other countries in the world forbidding abortion. So that's a major shift in the tectonic plates. Over the last months, just last week, in fact, we've been talking about the assault on democracy around the world, but particularly in the United States. And the point was made by a number of commentators on our program, but also in the media more generally, that whether it's code red for climate or code red for democracy or code red for health, and now code red for women. There's an interconnectivity as authoritarianism around the world rises in a very, very concerted and well-organized way. And last night, 50% of the US population was put on notice that the rights that they assumed were inalienable because they were women, and women have the right over their own body, is very soon not going to be the case by law. So this is a profound moment, I think, in modern history, as we now will begin to deal with consequences, many of them unpredictable, and what Gibbon talked about in terms of the unintended consequences of history will now begin to play out. So it's in that spirit that we want to take more seriously than maybe we were even doing yesterday on what is health, what constitutes health, what rights do we have as human beings in this world to have health, to have sanctity over the sovereignty of our own bodies. These are major issues now that have entered the public domain. I want to welcome Stephanie Mines, Dr. Stephanie Mines, who's written, I think, 5 books on various aspects of neuroscience and regenerative health. She's put together this 5-day program for us. So Stephanie, even though the news is somber, I want to welcome you in the spirit of goodwill to Humanity Rising, and I turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you for launching us with those words that raise my spirits. Do not deter them, quite the contrary. Yesterday, we were ushered across a threshold into the deepest exploration of what does regeneration mean. And what I intend to do today with the esteemed panel I've brought together is to deeply explore, in context of this shattering news, what is health? What is healing? What is healthcare? What do I mean by regenerative health for a climate changing world? So I'd like to begin with a regenerative experience. I'm going to offer a very simple application to tonify and strengthen adrenal function. I am getting ready for facing this new iteration, this shift in the tectonic plates that Jim has alluded to, and that I am feeling in the soles of my feet. So please bring your attention to the soles of your feet and allow the connective tissue there, the mother matrix of connective tissue, to deepen in contact with the earth. Soften your joints. Allow your shoulders to drop and allow your face to soften. Feel the widening across your collarbones. Let your chest open. Let your limbs be at ease. Drop into the somatic relationship that you have never lost with the earth. That is the essence of regenerative health, is you have never lost your somatic relationship with the flesh of the mother, the earth. So feel that, claim it. And I'm going to invite you, and you may do this in standing or seated, whatever is comfortable. I'm going to try to adjust my screen so that you can see that I am placing the palm of my left hand at the base of my spine. So the palm is generally in the area of the coccyx, the last bone in the spine. And the palm of my right hand is coming to the center of my chest. The place where I'd like to invite you to put your awareness is in the center of the palms of your hands. So holding these sacred sites, that's what I call them in the system I deliver. Perhaps you're already, as I am, feeling a heat rising. Dropping into the sensory experience, rising up into your hands. We are tonifying, meaning regenerating in this simple posture, adrenal function. Directing, for me, the rage, the fury, the activism, rising up through the channels of my nervous system into a grounded, focused, aware vibrancy. So noticing not only what's happening in the palms of your hands, but throughout your body. Allow yourself to receive in your own rhythm, in your own way, the breath of life. I'm soaking up the luscious, soothing, comforting, directive heat from the center of the palms of my hands. Feel free to move. Feel free to, in your own space, allow that regenerative adrenal tonification to circulate through your body. Today, we are going to dive into an exploration of what we mean by healthcare, defined in our terms, not in terms dictated to us, finding our ownership of what regenerative healthcare means. So my intention when I say regenerative healthcare is not to deliver instructions. It's rather to stimulate what is already there. Regenerative health is that which evokes, brings out of hiding the true vibrancy that we have never lost. That is embryonic to us. So you'll hear more about this in the coming days as I speak of the embryonic intelligence of original brilliance. That's the theme of my forthcoming book, Memoir of an Embryologist, written, as I say in the book, by the embryo in me. So regenerative health is the healthcare that evokes your innate vitality, regardless of what you eat or how you breathe or what your diet is or how much you exercise. That innate vitality, the embryonic intelligence that brought you to embodiment, is undying. And it is time to call it forth. So we are going to explore this question with this esteemed group of people I love and respect. And we're going to start, as we did yesterday, with sounding, with an invocation, with gratitude, with listening, just listening to the voice of the earth. So we'll begin with Claire Hedin, who you met yesterday, my dear friend and fellow artist, who has a plumb line, a sensory plumb line, a somatic plumb line, by which her connective tissue absorbs and delivers through her voice the message from the core of the earth. So we'll start there, and Claire may then go into answering the question, or I may reiterate it after a pause when we soak up the message from the earth. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good day, good evening, depending on where you are. I invite you to just soak this in, as Stephanie suggested, and just really be with yourself. Be with yourself. Health and healing is about knowing ourselves. When we are out of health, we are not knowing ourselves. Sometimes we need each other in order to restore that sense of balance and that sense of self-becomingness. We can help each other with that by being seen for who we truly are. For me, the journey of healing is a journey back into awareness of my original wholeness, WHO, wholeness. And it has meant saying yes to all of who I am. It has meant identifying belief systems that put me on the sidelines of my own life. It has meant learning how to read my body's energy as the thoughts travel through it, to feel emotions, translate those into systems of thought that keep me on those sidelines. When a whole culture defies that process, it is the enemy of health and healing. It is the enemy of itself. For we are each individuals within that system that need love and nurturing and tending. You cannot trample the garden and expect flowers to grow. Stephanie?
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Claire Hedin. The byline, you might say, of climate change and consciousness is to rouse a chorus of voices for our living earth. I can't think of anyone who embodies that more than Claire Hedin. But what is the value of finding our voices for our living earth? What is the value of putting individual transformation at the center in a time of epic healthcare need? From my standpoint, that's my contribution, is rousing a chorus of voices for our living earth. And the current political crisis that will affect everything going forward is evidence of that value of voicing our truth and voicing our truth from a place of health. So we are in a time of completely unprecedented health challenges on every level, for which the Western medical system, the allopathic tradition, which I honor for what it provides in acute situations. I am not trashing by any means the entire allopathic tradition in my comments. In fact, I welcome physicians and everyone in that healthcare system to be part of a vision of regenerative health, to humble themselves and recognize, as Thomas Fisher so eloquently does in his book, The Emergency, what has been stifled within them as they fit into a system that fits no size at all. So what do we do when the medical system upon which so many are dependent and who have been enculturated to rely upon is inadequate to meet the healthcare challenges of our time? I don't feel I have the only answer, but I want to work with others, to collaborate, to be in community with others who respond to that challenge with the innate embryonic intelligence, which in itself is health. I would like now to turn to my dear friend, my dear brother, Lev Natan. Lev is a sun dancer, a father, someone who generously gives out of his experience, including his experience with his own health and the health of his family, to create a path for climate leadership. This is so valuable because many of us, as I am right now, are aroused by the call that we want to contribute. We want to be part of the solution. We are done with being part of the problem. But for many of us, that path is somewhat mysterious and obscure. I am so incredibly grateful that my path has been laid out for me. But for many people, that path is hazy. And that is the incredible gift of Lev Natan, that he's created a structure to give you direction, orientation into climate leadership out of an inheritance of wisdom that far exceeds his years. So, Lev, please share with us your experience, your understanding. What is health? What is health care? What is regenerative health?
Thank you, Stephanie. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? I hope so. Well, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, all the panelists, some of who I've met before. I'm looking forward to deepening the connection through these deep conversations. As I was listening and reflecting and the shock of the harrowing news that Jim shared, and then being held in this community here for that news, just thinking about my own journey, because in a sense, health, care is not my profession, but I have a whole systems approach, and really my profession is purpose and calling. And I've kind of bushwhacked my way on the entrepreneurial quest, on the spiritual quest, to find my way in the world, to listen to what has called me, and that is what has inspired me to face my own challenges. And I had Stephanie on my podcast a few weeks ago, and this is what we spoke about, is that resilience that we have, that capacity to be resilient human beings. My understanding is that it comes from the interwoven connection with the sense of, why am I here? I'm here, I want the creator, I want life to use me up. By the end of my life, I want to be well used, that when I, leave this body, that I feel like, what? I left it all on the court. I played all out, and for the right reasons. So that's, for me, there's a intrinsic connection between that perspective, which is easy to say, but in the face of real challenges in my life, it's been hard to hold on to. I'll just share my own humble experience. we have a practice in the society of putting people up on pedestals, but we all are human beings. You know, we're the five-fingered people. You know, we're all the same. We all go to the bathroom. We all, you know, have to sleep at night. We're all human beings. So we all go through archetypal challenges. And for me, you know, in terms of my own health, 8 years ago, I had a dark night of the soul that was catalyzed by Lyme's disease. And I still have Lyme's disease. I have chronic Lyme's disease. It's in my system, and it's up to me how I deal with it. But 8 years ago, it was acute, and it brought me into depression, hopelessness. My business fell apart. I couldn't function properly. And I had a vision inside, and what I'm doing now is what was inside of me. And I felt like I didn't have the capacity, I didn't have the skills. I imploded. There's a healing term, a healing phrase from the Gospel of Thomas that really brought me through that time. It goes like this: if you bring forth what is within you will heal you. If you don't bring forth what is within you will destroy you. That's a big one, to just let it resonate. If you've never heard that before, if you have heard it before, you know, just receive that again. Every time I hear it, I'm grateful for that wisdom that I received. And that's what got me through those times. You know, I had to hold on to something that I knew that was inside of me, you know, and through those times of not feeling like I could manage my daily functions, taking care of myself, taking care of clients that I was working with, I had to really slow down what I was doing at the time. Through all that, I held on to that idea and that way of thinking. In the same regard, just in general, I've been an entrepreneur, self-employed for the last 12 years. And so I don't have any sick days. It's up to me. I need to take responsibility for my health. I'm sure many of the panelists and many of the listeners can resonate with that. I don't get sick days. You know, I need to make sure I'm healthy, or it's, you know, I don't get to work. I need to be doing the things in my life that I know allow me to be at my best, so that I can perform well. And then, you know, the third thing, in the last 2.5 years, my son was born, and he's had significant developmental delays. You know, I'm learning the terminology neurodiverse, and he, you know, just the real truth of it. In the last few weeks, he, you know, got sick and he couldn't shake it. So who did I call? Did I call the pediatrician? Who did I call? I called my adopted granddad, Jake Singer, who's my Sundance chief and a mentor of mine. I said, we need you to help us. You know, we need you to pray for us. We need your medicine, herbs. And just yesterday, you know, we got to spend time with him. And, you know, today Emmett is feeling better. So, you know, that's the way that I take responsibility for myself and my family. And again, like Stephanie said, it's not all or nothing. You know, we have to have a conversant relationship. We have to be in a peaceful way as best we can with the whole spectrum of healthcare, and even the, you know, the way that we're just integrating this new information about the you know, choice that is being taken away from women. You know, how do we deal with it? we have to take a moment, to really, grieve, first of all, I would say, is part of the healing process. So the first thing, I'll just, close, and then I'm sure we'll be circling back around, is for me to say, it's up to me. My healthcare is up to me, 100%. And then who do I resonate with to help me to feel my best? And what do I need to do? Do I need to do an intermittent fasting? Do I need to do infrared saunas? Do I need to have a certain kind of diet? All those things are things that I experiment with personally, and then for my family, and then that connection with purpose, with the intrinsic sense that I'm here for a reason. That is what gives me that life force, that boosts my immune system, and allows me to have the energy to put everything I have out into my day and my week, and to go on like that, and to, do the best I can to be an energetic, productive member of society, in the way that I see, the trajectory that we want to go on, to be strong for the children and the future generations, to have that inspiration and motivation. It's all about health. Health comes first. Health is wealth. So thank you. Let's say those many words for right now. And thank you for your kind attention and patience.
Thank you, Lev. Oh, Lev, as always, in his sweet, humble way, has pointed to the major characteristics, really, of regenerative health. And he's actually articulated the regenerative concept that I have of how we could assemble around someone. You'll see a demonstration of this tomorrow. That's the theme of tomorrow, is for you to see the regenerative model that I've created. It's not the model. It's not the only thing to do. It is a resource for healing in community. Regenerative health is in community. It is the recognition of community. So Lyme disease and all of those vector-borne diseases are one of the many on the rise, and that will accelerate, my friends. Allergens, all of those responses to the heating up of the climate, all of those are accelerating now and will accelerate more. Chronic conditions under the environmental escalation that we've created, they will accelerate. They will become more difficult, more challenging, and new diseases will emerge. This is not something that I am making up to scare you. This comes from the Centers for Disease Control. That's their analysis of the health consequences of climate crisis. And we know these consequences fall most heavily on the most vulnerable, those underserved populations, little ones, babies in utero. We're going to be focusing on how we can steward for them on our final day. The elderly, our precious, neglected, lonely elders. Those already sick. We know this. We have the statistics. This is not something fabricated. People of color, neglected populations that have been disserved, not underserved, disserved, suffer the most. How do we offset? How do we offset this? So these are physical, physiological sufferings. There are, of course, and we know this. I'm not giving you new information. It's there. It's in the public domain. Mental health crises escalating, domestic violence escalating. That's what happens in this colonialist patriarchal structure. Under stress, men beat women. I know that. I grew up with that. How do we offset that? I created the regenerative health paradigm because nobody offset that when I was growing up. And I want to change that. It's as simple as that. So physical, mental, and spiritual suffering is clearly escalating. How do we offset that? How do we bring forward the wisdom within us, which has never died? It may be in hiding, it may be suppressed, it may be hidden by trauma. Removing those obstacles so that we can be voices, embodiments for our living earth. That's regenerative health. It's not a formula. It's putting individuals at the center. That's what you'll see tomorrow. And I would like now to invite Stella Osorojos Eisenstein, who is an acupuncturist, someone working in the healing arts, to share the wisdom that comes through her. Thank you, Stella.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you to Jim. And especially thank you to the two previous speakers for setting me up so well here. I think Claire hit first off on a really key component of healing when she said that being seen is healing. Being seen in community, being seen for who we are. I come from a healing family. My dad and my grandfather were both doctors in Colombia and here in this country. And then I became an acupuncturist. And then I learned a bunch of other modalities. And what I noticed was that healing at its very root involves attention and allowance on the part of the practitioner and perhaps also on the part of the receiver. But that attention is key. And so I now teach something called Resonant Attention. In a really basic way, this is saying witnessing. When we witness what happens with somebody, if a child has a scrape, goes to its mother and says, ow, and mommy gets down at the level that the child is at, puts her hand over the scrape, is with it, gives attention, then healing happens. And not just this throwaway healing of, oh, look at how cute that kid is. He was healed by that. His tears dried up and he ran away. But a profound healing that happens on every level, at the level of the soul, at the level of the physical body, and at the emotional level. So this, I have noticed, is the crux of what happens on the healing table. We either put needles in, we acknowledge, yes, this is what your body is feeling, or we put our hands on somebody and we say, wow, I can feel this. This is what's happening in your tissues. I feel an inflamed lymph node. I can feel exudate around it. And I can feel that there's an emotional component. And if we can give clear and specific attention with compassion and allow the body to do what it knows how to do, then a profound level of healing is possible. Lev touched upon the need for us to take responsibility for our healthcare. And I think that's also key. The reason why I share my ideas about healing in the form of resonant attention is because I feel like the time is now to reskill medicine, that we are in crisis. And the current paradigm tells us that we are not empowered to heal ourselves, that we have to go to a doctor and get a medicine from him or her. And that is the only access that that is a reliable form of medicine. And increasingly it's becoming the only allowable form of medicine, right? There's all these strictures coming into play. Jim touched on one of them earlier today in the form of the dismantling of Roe v. Wade that appears to be happening. As we reclaim healthcare, as we remember how powerful we are in the healing field, then the outer forms of these strictures will be dismantled. So I don't actually feel terribly worried about the critical juncture that we find ourselves in, but it is a call to action. And it is time to reskill medicine. And so the more we can do that by either listening to our inner voice or even just realizing, as I teach, that in interbeing, healing is as close and as accessible as recognizing that attention plus allowance equals healing, or really miracle. Miracle healing is possible with just attention and allowance. And I'm actually going to take the allopathic paradigm to describe this, and placebo. I can describe this via placebo too, just to kind of awaken you to what's possible when we shift into this new paradigm of interbeing in medicine. So when you go to the doctor and he gives you that pill, he is giving you attention. He's saying, I see you, this will help. And if that's the paradigm that works for you, it lands in your body and it processes somatic trauma and it attends to the soul. The two realms, I think, that Spring Chen would talk about as being the critical pieces that we're missing in the current healthcare paradigm, or that we don't have language for in the current healthcare paradigm. Because as I'm describing right now, I'm talking about those actually being present in the current healthcare paradigm, but dismissed, right, in favor of follow the science, or whatever it is. So as we, so in allopathy or in placebo, same thing. You're given a pill and it meets you. It meets your need. You are seen. And then the alchemy happens. This incredible, ability that our body has to take that information, to take that feeling of having been seen and witnessed in community, and generate its own need, generate its own healing. Yeah, so a lot is possible at this juncture that we find ourselves in. I feel grateful for the opportunity to talk about it today and ongoingly. And thank you, Stephanie, for convening this. That's just a little, dropper full of what I could say, but that's kind of the nut of it.
Thank you, Stella. There are quotes from conversations that I've had with Stella that I keep at hand all the time so that I can use them as invocations for myself. We must embrace all possibilities for healing if we are to meet all the souls in need. We must embrace all possibilities for healing if we are to meet the souls in need.
That's right. We can't dismiss allopathy. We can't dismiss any of the indigenous healing traditions. We can't think about all the souls on the planet and what their particular human design or DNA or, whatever their encoding is, what they might need to feel met or to receive resonant attention is vastly different than what any other person might need. So we need them all. We need to bring all of our tools to play right now.
That is really the essence of regenerative health for a climate changing world, and putting the individual at the center, which allopathic medicine made entrepreneurial decisions that there wasn't enough time for that. And that's a major error that needs to be corrected. Referring to placebo studies, spot on. Shamini Jain has done incredibly in presenting how the placebo effect proves exactly what Stella is referring to about resonant attention. She's said it exquisitely. One more quote.
So they're talking about individualized medicine as N of one medicine, which I just want to kind of put out there as like the term that people are really grasping onto to get their heads around how medicine needs to shift. N of one medicine, where the individual is the science, right? Like that's a valid scientific argument to have.
A valid scientific argument. And another quote from Stella Osirojos Eisenstein: healing myself is what I rely on the most to help others. I've had an invaluable insider's view of how the body heals.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit more to that. I was, in a very, very sick body by the time I was 20. I was in chronic pain. I had autoimmune thyroid problems. I couldn't walk across the street. I cried myself to sleep every night. And then I started healing. I got sort of pushed out of allopathy and into the arms of the acupuncturists, and they were great. And then I had to learn more and all these things. But I mean, I've walked through healing myself of cancer a couple of times. I've healed scoliosis in my body. Really brought autoimmune Lyme many times in my body. Autoimmune thyroiditis brought it into remission. And all of these are possible, right? Like even knowing that it's possible to heal without allopathy, or that there are other opportunities for healing besides allopathy, even knowing that that's possible is forward thinking at this point in our collective understanding about medicine and healthcare. And I had wonderful healers along the way, but mostly I did it with my own hands on my body. Even that, like just putting two hands on your body, putting one hand where it hurts, another hand somewhere else, or another hand on your ureters, or another hand really wherever you get called to get put. The heat from your hands and a little bit of pressure can turn the gel inside the cells into liquid so they can discharge toxins and uptake nutrients with more alacrity. That alone is what got me through cancer. Now, there's all these caveats for sure, but think about what's possible for healthcare. It's like we feel so stuck. We feel so stuck by our current paradigm where it's not, it just feels impossible. It feels huge and impossible and can't be done. There's so many people, and it's just impossible. Only when we discount these other methods is that true. When we start to allow the wisdom from all these other traditions to come into play, we have exponential opportunity for healing. Starting with just our own hands.
Thank you. I want to be clear, we're not recommending, promising, or suggesting that this approach will solve all your problems. Quite the opposite, actually. I am inviting exactly what Stella says, that we must embrace all possibilities for healing. That's our responsibility. And we are the five-fingered ones. So we're talking about bringing forward what is already innate in us. That's the essence of regenerative health. And all of these principles, Stella doesn't really know about all the component parts of my regenerative health paradigm, but she has named every single one of them in what she just said. I've referenced embryonic intelligence. I want to speak in that awareness that I hope to cultivate in everyone. That's my grandiosity. I believe I could awaken in everyone listening an awareness of your own embryonic intelligence. And that intelligence is sensory, somatic. It comes frequently through the language of the embryo, the language of movement. Who are you? You are the one who folded and unfolded in rhythmic undulations, perfectly timed to orchestrate your dance of being. You are the one. You are the one who differentiated your cells, separating and reforming ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. You are the director of organogenesis. You are the initiator, the one who understands everything and therefore forgives everything. You wield the sword of apoptosis, remorselessly transitioning, discarding, evolving. You are the compass of the sacred directions, dorsal, ventral, cranial, caudal. You are the germinator, the one who began the great migration, the ingression through the primitive streak, the voyage through the womb. You enticed your mother to build a placenta for you, to surrender all her gateways, and she complied. You are the one who does not wait, because you know, you act. Well, that's my introduction to our next panelist. My brother, Yaakov Darling Khan, co-founder with his incredible wife, Susanna, of Movement Medicine. An inroad to health, always accessible, but painted as elusive as we age, which is a falsehood. Yaakov is coming to us from the UK, where he's awaiting the arrival of a Ukrainian family in his home. Like me, his ancestry is in Eastern Europe, along with Lev. Please welcome, for the first time on Humanity Rising, Yaakov Darling Khan.
Thank you so much. It's a real privilege and an honor to be here with you in this conversation, which to me feels like an invocation, a multi-voiced invocation of our possibilities in these really challenging times. since this conversation began, I've really been aware of three things that have been very strong for me listening. One is something I learned many, many years ago. I've had the blessing, like many of us, to be welcomed into different indigenous traditions to learn and study. I was hit by lightning in my early 20s on a golf course, which introduced me to my mortality in a rather fast and shocking way. That presence that I've learned to call benevolent death has really been with me. So what is that? What's its presence got to do with this conversation? And I think as I've really been listening with my being to these extraordinary invocations of my companions here, I really felt this sense of this presence, and knowing our mortality, having death in the room as a welcome every day, every morning in the shower. I have a little chat with benevolent death, who has a great sense of humor, by the way, in my experience, always laughing, always joking, always reminding me of my impermanence in this body, and reminding me that today, or not even today, now is the moment I've got, and maybe today, and reminding me to focus on what actually really matters to me. So benevolent death is a teacher. And if we are aware of our mortality, and our mortality is part of the conversation of health, then there is perhaps a little less fear in the conversation. So much of what we run from is that sense of impermanence. The second thing that I've really been aware of is the presence of the unknown, the presence of what is not yet known to us. What we know is so tiny compared to what is unknown to us, what we have yet come to recognize in ourselves, in each other, in life itself. This for me is this is having the eyes of an artist, like to be looking for what's not yet been seen, for sensing what's not yet been sensed. I'm aware that in this time that we've been together, hearing this news from America of this change in law reminded me of how I felt when the wall went up around Bethlehem, Israel and Palestine, an old conflict. And that feeling that I saw and witnessed so strongly in Stephanie, the lighting of the passion inside us, the unwillingness to contemplate defeat, the passion to recognize that the building of a wall or the changing of a law is only one step closer to our liberation. And I don't say that glibly. I don't say it as a kind of let's spiritually bypass what happens. I had to really give my body, as Stephanie invited us to right at the beginning, back into the holding of this great power beneath us, this living earth that is movement, that is life in movement, that is evolution, that is so much stronger than we have yet come to see, recognize, feel. And why does that matter? It's because we are that intelligence, this physical body, which, whilst it's living, this body, the difference between this body and a dead body, there's only one difference. And that difference can be summed up in one word. And that word is movement. Life is movement. So when we allow ourselves and choose to be consciously in movement, to give our physical beings, our emotional condition, our mental condition back to that intelligence that lives the body, that is beating my heart, your heart right now. That movement of life, which I call the unbroken. I think the beautiful description of that embryonic intelligence, that intelligence exists in everything that lives, in nature. It is unbroken. And that knowledge, that embodied knowledge of that which is unbroken in us, allows us to hold that which is broken, not just in us, but in each other, in our world, in our biosphere. It enables us to be with it and to dance and to work and to find what is the channel that is unique to us, the who we are-ness of self, that channel for bringing our voice, what matters to us, our passions into the world. Lev mentioned what we don't allow through us when it's on the level of soul. What Ken Wilber described as the daemon, our spirit, our soul, our unique channel opened, threaded through, embodied, brought to earth, shared courageously. That enables us to embrace what's behind us, our background, to not turn away from it, to recognize how that background, our personal biography, our family biography, our ancestral biographies, how those stories are all, even the most tragic, they are all potential strength in us when we remember how this body is movement. And that's our work. And, you know, for me, when we move, what we are doing is we are giving our attention to that aspect of ourselves that is already in movement. I don't teach anyone to dance. I used to hate dancing. I felt horribly self-conscious at the idea of dancing. Like, why dance? And what's dance got to do with health or regenerative health? Dance is, or movement medicine in our language, is getting back into the river, going with, bringing our yes to what is happening, learning to, through listening to rhythm. Rhythm is the messenger of a greater power that reminds us that this body is earth. It is sunlight. We are sunlight. Our cells are shining with the power of the sun, and the sun so far away, and yet such a gift for life that rises every morning saying, yes, stand up, be yourself, shine. The waters that we are, the waters, the depth, the fluidity, the capacity to shift shape, to be fine mist or a crashing wave, to shift shape, to let our minds become fluid, to remember that alignment of body, kinesthetic intelligence, emotional intelligence, because if you move your body, you're going to feel more, and learning to be at ease with the power of our human and mammalian emotions, the emotional language we share with all mammals, the intelligence of the heart. To know that fear, when we feel it, it's a call to pay attention, not to be overwhelmed, not to be catapulted out of presence. So through working with the body, we learn to stay grounded in that awareness of being awake, paying attention. Anger teaches us about integrity. Sadness teaches us the art of grieving, of letting go. And that is always one step closer to the genuine medicine of joy. And joy is so important, especially in times of deep grief and sorrow and challenge, that we give our attention often to simple things of beauty, simple things of beauty, and remember to take in what life is offering us. The wind gives us space, space. It blows through that busy mind. Make space so that we can, body, heart, mind, become a channel to receive the guidance that is who we are. This is movement medicine. This is recognizing that each of us, we are made from resource. We are resource. We are living, moving intelligence. And it's taken nearly 14 billion years for us to reach this point. And I truly believe that we have a great opportunity through these multiple crises to take responsibility, find our role to play. Let that be the most important. And it's, as Lynn Twist from the Pachamama Alliance says, it's not a big role, it's not a small role, it's your role. And if we play it, and one way we discover that is being present in the body, letting ourselves be moved. And in that being moved, who we are becomes visible. That opening to what's not yet known. This is the road to healing. And I am practicing this so much every day. My own personal practice, I don't know about you, but I am needing to spend that time every day in the refuge of remembering, so that as I then rise to face the day, I remember what I am. I am an elemental being. I am a dancer, and so are you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Born again. We unfold downward toward the earth, crying like babies who were uprooted and then forced fed into growth without ever blooming. Top heavy, we are crippled on our stalks. We are intended to connect, to find the earth, but without the strength to do so, having never been taught alignment. We adapt into curvatures, desperate for gravitas. We adapt into curvatures, desperate for gravitas, agonizingly seeking sun, restlessly reconfiguring this way and that, disoriented, following whatever draws us back to the earth, back to the ground. Finally, the voice of gravity wins. It humbles our wayward flowering. It invites the relentless truth. Gravity pulls us back down into Earth's belly, where we can sleep finally for a while, sobbing, "Mama, Mama," sucking in the earth's juices, eating the dirt, ravenous, hungry, thirsty, ravenous, sucking in the juices until finally, we rise up. This is a time of remembering, bringing back into the members of our body the elemental beings that we are, as Yakov said, and rising up from that rootedness that we find by daring to take responsibility for ourselves, daring to move, daring to listen, daring to be silent, daring to promote only one thing: our voices for our living earth. I'd like to invite my beloved panelists to say a few words in summary of what you've learned, what you've experienced about regenerative health and how we offset the destructiveness that is afoot. How do we meet it with remembering, with regenerative, vibrant responsibility as stewards for our children and the children of the future? Returning to the order with which we started, Claire Hedin.
So much has been shared. It's rich earth. It's resonant. I think the piece that I feel has to be carried forward, and we must each carry forward that which speaks to us, I feel, the strongest, because it is all true, is that the sickness of the mind is a sickness of perception. That the domestication of mind, the colonization of mind, has colonized our bodies, our health, and our freedoms. And it is simply a mistake in our thinking. No matter what someone else, whether they are government or family, says to us, we are free. We are always free. We have choices. Getting to know ourselves, getting to make relationship with our perceived limitations of mind. It's a journey. But we have each other, and we have these various methods. There are so many healing modalities waiting for our asking to bring it in. We don't have to do this alone. We can create an exponentially expanding, healing, regenerative, vital healthcare system that focuses on vitality itself. Not fixing things, but initially restoring things and then allowing them to grow, like you might take in a bird with a wounded wing or something of that nature, and you spend time with it, giving it resonant attention, dancing, moving, creating alliances, writing poetry. We belong. We absolutely belong. We came from the stardust, and we exist as that speaking itself into being, changing form and shape, dynamics all the time. Whether you access who you are through your body, your mind, or your emotions, your intuition, the connections weave our structures into regenerative health. I invite all of you to be with each of us as it feels right to you, to help find your way into a regenerative, vital lifestyle. And do not be put off. Do not be pushed to the side of your life by others. And thank you, Stephanie, so much for bringing this into the center of conversation today.
We can create a vital healthcare system. Yes, yes, yes.
And I'm going to stay on camera as the other panelists come, because I'm here in support of all of us and everyone who's here.
Great idea. Let's all do that. Lev.
So thank you again to everyone, Stephanie, all the panelists, everyone that's listening. The space of listening in itself, again, that community aspect is so important. Yaakov spoke about the importance of joy and happiness, and in this closing, I'm feeling called to connect back to my Jewish ancestry, the Jewish mystical teachings. Rebbe Nachman, he said, if you can only remember one thing, it's to be happy. And if that was an easy thing to do, then he wouldn't have said that that's the most important teaching. You know, there's science behind that we can go into, right? Joy, emotions boosts our immune system. And we can go into all that. But just remember, it's a practice to be happy. And how do we be happy? With gratitude. All the wisdom traditions, the indigenous peoples begin life, begin the day and the morning with gratitude, giving thanks that I'm here, I'm alive, giving thanks for the water and the food, whatever I have, the breath of life, you know, to wake up with the morning sun. Gratitude right there. It's always there for you. It's there. Then I want to also mention the teachings. I think it was Rabbi Hillel about humility, to be humble, to walk that razor's edge, being a climate leader. It's a narrow path, and the path of regenerative health, I also believe it's a narrow path. You know, we have to balance. We have to have courage and wisdom. You know, those are the two wings that allow us to fly, and to have that balance. We put our arms out so that we can stay on the path. You know, in one pocket, it said, I am but dust and ashes. You know, when I feel too confident, I say, I am but dust and ashes. Yaakov was talking about that relationship with death, you know, so to have that humility. And then when I'm feeling hopeless, say, the world was created for me alone. So I have those two ideas in my pockets for different times, but like that, then however I'm feeling, I can move forward. So I just want to offer that to each of you, and you know, blessings for this beautiful day, and for each one of you in your everyday life too. Thank you.
You are my happiness. This collective is my happiness. This is what makes me happy. This is what allows me to be of service. Community. Being with resonant souls allows my embryonic intelligence to come forward. Thank you. Stella.
I wanted to touch on something that Spring Chen's work. I know she was originally scheduled to be here today, and
She was with us yesterday, actually.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to touch on her work because I think it answers your question, at least partly. Her book, The Resonance Code, gives language to reskill the capacities that we have in what she calls the dense plane and the light plane, and which Yakov actually just embodied beautifully for us there in the dancing that he did on screen, really beautifully. And so just to answer your question really succinctly, like I would read her book because it's great to give us language to reskill medicine. And then I would also elaborate on something you just touched on, which is to go back to community, create communities of healing locally that you can use as a resource for your own healthcare. I offer something through my Resonant Attention websites where we do group healing together, where we put somebody in the middle and we witness and give attention and allow. And this is something we can all do together. My original impetus for it actually was remembering that we used to have communities of elders that would do this for us as part of what it meant to be a healthy human, of what it meant to be living in a healthy community. And it was just sit some old ladies down and let them hear your problems. That I think is a seriously viable solution to solving our health crisis, our healthcare crisis across the globe. Right? I'm trying to be funny and also deadly serious at the same time. So, reskilling medicine, in the individual level and the community level, and that will take care of the whole is kind of my answer for your.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do tomorrow.
Awesome.
With old and young ladies.
Yeah.
We would welcome men into the circle as well,
Sure.
But it was women who showed up. That is the model of the regenerative health design that we'll demonstrate. It does have some structures, but that's basically it. It's just not restricted only to old ladies, though I am the old lady who created it. I just feel so much love and joy. I am so grateful for what Lev pointed to in our ancestry that allows me to recognize the joy that I can experience, that I can be regenerating. In the same program that I am supposedly facilitating, I am being healed. Lev, thank you. Yakov.
Thank you. My offering right now is to invite you simply to put the palms of your hands together softly and to imagine that inside the palms of your hands, your heart is beating so that you can sense that pulse of life in you. Many years ago, my first teacher, she said to me that for years she had this awful problem with her hearing. It's very hard for her to listen because whenever she stopped to listen, she kept hearing a phone ringing in her head, and it was very annoying. And she tried everything. She tried everything to heal that so that she could hear a little deeper, her own heart, her own wisdom. And eventually she ended up with an old woman. She could have been from anywhere. She carried wisdom. And the old woman said, pick up the phone, sweetheart. Listen. And so in her next meditation, she picked it up, and there was her own heart speaking. Can you feel in your hands, your heart? And just let the hands give movement to that, as if your hands could be an expression of that heartbeat, opening, closing, opening, closing. Give it breath. Give that movement a little breath, a little breath. And imagine then that you could simply just let your hands go, be interested, be curious. Let your heart move, your hands, your wrists. This is movement. This is your heartbeat. This is the intelligence of life between your hands right now. You are being moved, breathed. Just take those hands now, take that heart and place them anywhere where you feel you need that sense of love and touch and connection. And even, let's do this, one hand to the screen and another somewhere on the body, that we can just for a moment be in this heartbeat together. The key for regenerative health for me in my life is this heartbeat. The heart is the trunk of the tree of life. It's where life manifests. It's where our dreams, our ideas, our thoughts, that which is in the roots, unconscious, comes into being. That which is above us in the branches comes into being. Be conscious. Choose what you are dreaming, what you focus on. Give time to grieving. Give time to trouble, but balance it with beauty, because we need that sense of the magnificence, the miracle, to know that possibility is in us. It's in our hands. It's in our fingers. It's in our hearts. It's in this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Yaakov, for giving us this experience of regenerative health. And that's really the key, is the experience. Tomorrow, I will be offering a regenerative health demonstration, a model of the paradigm I've created that will lead to, if you want to experience it more, to become a representative of regenerative health in your community. There'll be an opportunity to do that. All of us represent, as Claire said initially, opportunities. What I love about Humanity Rising is that we become unified, that we are a collective offering the way in which regenerative health moves through us. I want us to all come together, to all be together, offering the world the wisdom that comes through our experience. We dare to claim our experience and our wisdom. I'm going to turn this over now to Jim to conclude this iteration, and I look forward to tomorrow and the demonstration of regenerative health for a climate changing world.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone. This has been a very powerful, evocative session. And what has been striking to me is the the passion and the heartfulness with which you've talked about health. It's something that's so deeply important to each and every one of us. We owe it to ourselves, as you all have indicated, to take our health very, very seriously within the context, I think, as Stella and others have emphasized, where everyone's health is so individual. We need to be able to access the entire spectrum of health therapies and cures and protocols on a really highly individuated basis for us to really secure the health that we all seek. It's not just allopathic or homeopathic, naturopathic. Every modality has something to offer. And what we need to be embracing and developing as quickly and definitively as we can is an integral health system where everyone's taken care of in their own way with the kinds of protocols that are specifically suited to them. And so I really appreciate this notion of health. As Stephanie said, we're going to dive in deeper tomorrow as we enter into our third of 5 days. But this has been a beautiful second representation of regenerative health, Stephanie. So I want to thank you and your panelists very deeply for what you've brought to our attention today. You're all welcome to the after session chat group. You'll see the link in the chat box. Stan will put the link in the chat box. And then we'll see all of you here again tomorrow. Same time, same station for day 3 of regenerative health in a climate changing world. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Thank you.